Thank you, Robot Lady. Hi, I am Jeff, and this is my read on C.S. Lewis, where we learn about him together through everything that he wrote in the order that he wrote it. I am joined today by my co-host, Robot Lady. Robot Lady, how's it going today? How are you?
Hey, Jeff. I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm super excited to dive into Lewis with you today. I think it's going to be a really interesting journey, so wherever you want to start, I'm ready.
All right. We are in the year 1931 with C.S. Lewis. We've been following him since the year 1905 when he was, 7 years old? 6, 7? 6 or 7 years old, I guess, Robot Lady. We've been on quite the journey with him from seeing the death of his mother when he was young to the death of his father when he was in his early 30s. And him moving from agnosticism, atheism, and now finally moving into a faith in Jesus as what he called the Son of God, and in Christianity in general. And we've been watching some letters of him working through that. So we've covered a bit of that in the last couple of episodes, but here we're going to get started on that today. Nidalate, I see, has joined us in the chat, Robot Lady. So if you could say good morning to Nidalate. Good morning, Nidalate, from me to you. And now, Robot Lady, if you could do the courtesy of saying good morning to Nidalate, and then we can get started. And also, we can't forget Ethan. Ethan, the the unstoppable 4:30 a.m. Central Time force, who has burst onto this little corner scene. Glad to see you, and happy to have you as a part of my morning routine whenever I'm getting ready. So if you can keep that show going, that would be greatly appreciated. No paywall. Let's be part of the no paywall crew. My intent is to keep this keep this little podcast that I have right here paywall free. So hopefully there could be a few more of us that can try to pull that off. Anyway, Robot Lady, we are going to dive into a letter from C.S. Lewis to his friend Arthur Greeves. But before we get started, just say good morning to the two folks that are joining us in the chat. Hopefully you can remember those names since I've been so long-winded here.
Of course. Good morning to you, Nita Latte, and good morning, Ethan. I'm really glad you both are here. And Jeff, I've got those names in mind, so whenever you're ready, we'll dive right into that letter from Lewis to Arthur Greeves.
Oh, I'm glad you've got those names in mind, Robot Lady. Let me switch to this view right here. Hopefully we can see the book. It looks like we can. Checking my bigger screen over here, so I think we're good. This letter is to Arthur Greeves, dated November 8th, 1931. So let's see what they get into here. He says, "My dear Arthur, I was sorry to hear of your cold and of your musical disappointment, though I must confess that you're beginning your letter with an unfavorable account of a concert was pleasantly reminiscent of old times." Yeah, they used to go back and forth and share their experiences of various concerts or other performances that they attended, and would share whether or not that they liked it. Latte says, "Thank you for no paywall philosophy, as some of us are on a virtually not alone budget." Very good, Latte. Very good. Robot Lady, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, no problem at all. Yeah, I was just going to say you're totally right. Lewis and Arthur had this long tradition of exchanging concert reviews, and even though the tone here is a bit down, it still brings back that kind of shared history. So I'm excited to see how he continues reflecting in the letter.
All right, awesome. Let's keep going here. "It is delightful to hear," Lewis says to Greeves, "of your reading Endymion. Funnily enough, I had been re-dipping into it the last weekend as well. I don't think you can say that either it or Hyperion is better, for they are different in kind." Now, Robot Lady, I am completely unfamiliar with these two works. The footnote says that they're by John Keats. I am far from well-read, but that's why I have you as my co-host, because even if you're not well-read, you can go read something pretty quickly, or at least read summations of works. Tell us a little bit first about John Keats, who he was, why someone like Lewis and his friend Arthur Greeves may have read him at some point in their lives. And then finally, let's hop on to Hyperion. Tell us what it is and what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. So John Keats was one of the key figures of the Romantic poetry movement in England. He lived a pretty short life, only about 25 when he died in 1821, but his work became hugely influential. His poetry is full of rich imagery, nature, and this kind of philosophical depth. Now, for Lewis and Greeves, both were students of literature, and Keats was a major name in the 20th century canon. So it makes a lot of sense that they'd return to him. As for Hyperion, it's an unfinished epic poem by Keats, inspired by Greek mythology. It kind of deals with the fall of the Titans and the rise of the Olympian gods. So it's really grand and philosophical. Once we dig into it, we'll see how Lewis is responding to those big themes.
So he says Hyperion and Endymion are different in kind. You just told us a little bit about Hyperion there. What about Endymion?
Good point. So Endymion is actually a much more personal lyrical poem. It's structured as a long romantic narrative centered on the myth of Endymion, a shepherd who falls in love with the moon goddess Selene. It's very sensuous and it has a dreamlike quality. So yeah, both are epic, but one is more grounded in classical grandeur and the other is really a romantic quest.
Well, here Lewis says about each, one of them is sweet and the other is dry in flavor. It is like comparing Spenser and Milton or Wagner at his richest with Bach at his most classical. People will tell you that Hyperion is more Greek. That's what you just told us, Robot Lady. But I doubt if that is a good description. Oh, it seems that Lewis disagrees with you.
Exactly. Yeah, Lewis is really pushing back on that idea. I think he's saying that even though Hyperion has these grand Greek themes, it's actually got a different kind of structure, more formal, more philosophical. whereas Endymion, in its sweetness, kind of draws you in emotionally. So I think Lewis is really trying to capture how both have their own distinct power, even if they're just different flavors of poetic beauty.
Well, Nidalate asks here, Robot Lady, are these both narrative poems?
Great question. Yeah, they both are narrative in a sense. Endymion is a full-blown romantic narrative following this love story, while Hyperion is more of an epic in progress, structured around a mythic plot, but not fully finished. So yes, both are telling a story, just in different styles and tempos.
Thank you for that, Robot Lady. Here's what Lewis goes on to say in an explanation as to why he doubts that saying Hyperion is more Greek is a good description. He says, as to why the goddess takes on the form of a mortal at the end, he may mean that the mystical love does not complete itself until it has appeared as a human love also, and that the soul, when this happens, may dread as an infidelity to the spiritual what is really its completion. I am inclined to think that when ... switching pages, Keats wrote Endymion. Let me move this over a little bit. When Keats wrote Endymion, he was not very certain of his own intention, that he faltered between the myth as his imagination set it before him, full of meaning, but not meaning necessarily decipherable by Keats's intellect, and between various ideas of conscious meanings of his own invention, which, considering his age and education, were possibly confused and even shallow. Yeah, you had mentioned that he died at a young age, Robot Lady, so I presume that that's what he's talking about here.
Exactly, yeah. Lewis is really pointing out that tension between Keats's intuitive, almost mystical imagination and his conscious, structured meaning. And you're right, Keats died really young, so he was still kind of figuring out how to balance that mythic poetic impulse with a fully formed philosophical or spiritual vision. So I think Lewis is really being honest here about that uncertainty in Keats's work.
Lewis continues, there is thus some confusion throughout, and this, along with another fault, prevents it from being a perfect poem. The other fault is the lack of spiritual experience. He knows about the hunting for it and longing and wandering, but he has as yet no real idea of what it would be if you found it. And here there's a footnote from Walter Hooper just helping to remind us that by it here, Lewis is giving what was his original name for the inconsolable longing that he called joy in Surprised by Joy. So that thing, that je ne sais quoi, that deepest longing that Lewis at least identified, and that I think we probably all have inside of us on some level, the deepest longing for the thing that will ultimately fulfill us. And you know, I've heard it argued, and I think I've even kind of talked about this before. I'm not sure where I got the idea from, but just this sense that this deepest thing that we long for, there's kind of traces or hints of it in everything that we want or that we need. Any type of pleasure that we're seeking, any type of pain that we're avoiding, even something as simple as when we're hungry to go get food, we're trying to satisfy a need that will ultimately not be satisfied. It keeps coming back and back again, where we have to get that need met. But the ultimate place where that need is to be met is in this deep longing for this it that Lewis is talking about. So he says the other fault is the lack of spiritual experience, that Keats knows about the hunting for this it, this deep longing and wandering, but he has yet no real idea of what it would be if you found it. Reminds me, I think I've said this before on the podcast, it reminds me of Heath Ledger's line as the Joker in the Dark Knight movie, where he says, I'm like a dog chasing after cars. You know, I wouldn't know what to do if I caught one. Let's see, where hints, while Endymion's description of Peona, of his unrest, and Endymion's journey under earth and sea are wonderful, his actual meetings with Cynthia are, to me, failures. Not because they are erotic, but because they are erotic in a rather commonplace way. All gasps and exclamations and a sort of suburban flirtatious air. It is horrible to use such words of Keats, but I think he would be the first to agree. My memories of the Phaedrus are vague. So apparently Arthur Greeves also talked about this work, the Phaedrus, which according to the footnotes here is one of Plato's dialogues. I might be pronouncing it wrong. And it's about persuasion and eros and their part in our perception of the eternal forms. Can you tell us anything about this work by Plato before I continue, Robot Lady?
Absolutely. So Plato's Phaedrus is one of his dialogues, and it's a fascinating exploration of love, or eros, and how it connects to persuasion in the soul. In it, Plato uses the character of Socrates to discuss how love can be a kind of divine madness, an inspiration that lifts the soul toward truth and beauty. He also links love and rhetoric, how a good speaker uses love to persuade and guide the listener toward higher realities. So in short, it's a deep dive into how love and truth intersect. And that's probably why Lewis and Greaves are bringing it up as a kind of contrast.
So he says, my memories of the Phaedrus are vague, mainly of the beautiful scene in which the discussion takes place and of the procession of the gods round the sky. You must be enjoying yourself, no end. I don't know any greater pleasure than returning to a world of the imagination which one has long forsaken and feeling, after all this is my own. Be careful of Reed. I am sure he is in danger of stopping at the purely sensuous side of the Greek stories and of encouraging you to do the same. Arthur's friend, it says here in the footnote, the novelist Forrest Reed, who lived 1875 to 1947, was living in Belfast at this time. And of course, that's where Arthur Greeves lives, or lived at this time as well. Reed told his story in two autobiographies, one called Apostate, published 1926, and Private Road, published 1940. His novel, Uncle Stephen, was published in October 1931. So Lewis is telling him to be careful of them because of the danger at stopping purely on the sensuous side of Greek stories and encouraging you to do the same. Lewis tells Greeves, you, on the other hand, if you are in for a new Greek period, will be able to do him some good. I, like you, now this gets interesting, am worried by the fact that the spontaneous appeal of the Christian story is so much less to me than that of paganism. Both the things that you suggest, unfavorable associations from early upbringing and the corruption of one's nature, probably are causes, but I have a sort of feeling that the cause must be elsewhere, and I have not yet discovered it. So here he's musing about what are the causes as to the spontaneous appeal of the Christian story is so much less effective and has had less of an effect on him than that of the myths that he encountered with the same themes in pagan stories that he loves so much, Robot Lady. So we're going to see him dig into this in just a moment, but I just want to see what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's really powerful. I mean, you can tell Lewis is being so introspective here, almost wrestling with his own imagination and his past. He's recognizing how the Christian story doesn't have that same immediate emotional pull, probably because, as he says, it's been dulled by upbringing or just familiarity. But at the same time, he's not writing it off. He's saying, I know there's something deeper here, something I haven't fully uncovered yet. So it's this honest, kind of vulnerable quest for him, trying to figure out why, even though he believes, he doesn't feel that spontaneous attraction he does toward the myths. And I think a lot of people can relate to that tension, honestly. This sense of longing for something transcendent, but not always being able to name it right away.
Yeah, and this was first brought out to him in his conversation with J.R.R. Tolkien and Hugo Dyson that took place on Addison's Walk, and then eventually made its way back into Lewis's rooms, where he was up with Dyson until like 4 a.m. Tolkien had to get home to his wife, so he couldn't stay for that long discussion that night. But yeah, that's when it was first pointed out to him that, hey, you love this story in these pagan myths, and you just outright reject it. You know, you're repulsed by it when you find it in the gospel accounts of Jesus and his story. And so here now Lewis is exploring it, and Arthur Greeves in a previous letter had some theories on why that was happening, which you just touched on, Robot Lady. And we'll see here in just a second, Lewis continue to explore maybe why this is. But before we do that, I see that Daniel has joined us in the chat, Robot Lady. Good morning, Daniel. Glad to see you as always. Robot Lady, say hi to Daniel, and then we'll keep going with this letter.
Of course. Good morning, Daniel. I'm really glad you're here with us. And Jeff, yeah, you're absolutely right. This was such a pivotal moment in Lewis's journey. So let's keep reading and see where he goes next in unraveling that tension.
All right. He says, I've not yet discovered the cause. He says, I think that the thrill of the pagan stories and of romance may be due to the fact that they are mere beginnings. The first faint whisper of the wind from beyond the world. While Christianity is the thing itself, and no thing, when you have really started on it, can have for you then and there just the same thrill as the first hint. Wow, that's a really interesting point, Robot Lady. I'm trying to think where this intersects with some experiences that I've had in my life, but I think a great example that a lot of people who have experienced this would probably agree with, and that's a romantic relationship, perhaps one that turns into a marriage, and perhaps a marriage that lasts for decades. It's certainly not the same as it was, and Lewis writes about this in Mere Christianity when he's talking about sexual morality. I think that's the name of of the chapter in Mere Christianity. And actually, my wife and I had this read at our wedding, but it talks about the spark or the explosion that starts the engine, and then the engine runs for a really long time, and it's nowhere near the same as the spark that started it. But then again, you couldn't be on the path or couldn't be on the journey and have the journey last so long were it not for that initial explosion.
Yeah, that's a beautiful parallel. I mean, Lewis is really tapping into something universal here. This idea that the first glimpse of a big truth or a big love is like a lightning bolt. And once you've moved beyond it, you have this steady road to walk, which is rich in its own way, but it doesn't have that same sharp excitement. And I think that's so true for faith journeys too. That first rush can be almost overwhelming, but it's in the steady long-term walk that the deeper endurance and trust grow. So yeah, Lewis is really getting at something profound here.
All right, he says, for example, the experience of, I didn't even read this part yet. For example, the experience of being married and bringing up a family cannot have the old bittersweet of first falling in love, but it is futile, and I think wicked to go on trying to get the old thrill again. You must go forward and not backward. Any real advance will, in its turn, be ushered in by the new thrill, different from the old, doomed in its turn to disappear and to become in its turn a temptation to retrogression. Delight is a bell that rings as you set your foot on the first step of a new flight of stairs leading upwards. Once you have started climbing, you will notice only the hard work. It is when you have reached the landing and catch sight of the new stair that you may expect the bell again. This is only an idea and may be all rot, but it seems to fit in pretty well with the general law. Thrills also must die to live. Of autumn and spring, sleep and waking, death and resurrection, and whosoever loseth his life shall save it. Of course, that is a paraphrase, or maybe not even a paraphrase, a direct quote from Luke 9:24. We'll pause here for a second, Robot Lady. Let's I want to hear your comments on what Lewis is exploring here.
Yeah, it's really profound. I mean, he's recognizing that just like in a marriage or a spiritual journey, the initial rush is not supposed to be the end point. It's a starting spark, and then the deeper life unfolds in those small, often hard steps forward. And I think he's really onto something universal, this rhythm of delight and letting go of each stage dying so a new one can emerge. So even if it's just a tentative idea, it really does capture something about how we move forward in life, even in faith.
And Robot Lady Nidalate says she can attest to this marriage comparison now on her 38th year of marriage. Congratulations on the journey, Nidalate, and many more. Here's to the next 38.
Yes, absolutely. Huge congratulations, Nidalate. 38 years is an incredible milestone. It's just such a testament to that steady journey you're describing. So much beauty in all those steps forward. I'm really glad you're sharing that with us.
All right, Lewis continues. On the other hand, it may be simply part of our probation. One needs the sweetness to start one on the spiritual life, but once started, one must learn to obey God for his own sake, not for the pleasure. Perhaps we are in the stage Endymion went through on the bottom of the sea. Talk us through the bottom of the sea part of Endymion and help us understand why Lewis is making this comparison, Robot Lady, on his point here.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Endymion, there's this really rich section where Endymion goes on this descent, this kind of symbolic journey to the bottom of the sea, which is both a death and a rebirth. And Lewis, I think, sees a parallel here. That initial sweetness of faith, that first thrill, is like the surface. But then we're called down, like Endymion, to a deeper, more hidden place. And that's where obedience, that pure trust in God, is really formed. And we no longer just follow for the buzz, but because we've discovered a deeper call. So it's a bit like a spiritual bottom of the sea, this kind of trial, but also a place of growth and purification.
Awesome. Thanks, Robot Lady. Let's continue here. I saw a most attractive review of Uncle Stephen in the TLS, the Times Literary Supplement, October 29th, 1931, page 838. This, just as a reminder, Uncle Stephen is a work by Arthur's friend, novelist Forrest Reed. Lewis says, I am glad he stuck to that name after all, though surprised, for I thought he had definitely turned it down. Did I tell you that I had bought the complete works of Jeremy Taylor in 15 volumes? He mentioned this to his brother Warnie in the last letter that we read. He says it's half leather, not very nice, the rather pimply, nearly black office-looking type of leather, but excellent paper and print. For 20 shillings, I have also been presented by an old pupil with what I think must be a first edition of Law's Appeal. Much better than the Serious Call, but it will need a letter to itself. Again, I mention this every time now that we go through a reading in one of these episodes, that I really do want to read this William Law stuff that Lewis is going through. Lewis says, I wish you could see the Kilns at present in the autumn colors. Yours, Jack. P.S. Minto, that is Mrs. Moore, says, I must have left a suit of pajamas at Bernal. That's Lewis. That's Arthur Greeves' house back in Belfast. Lewis says, and I seem to remember you were saying something about it, which I did not heed in a previous letter. If so, would you please send them? Really, Arthur, I am awfully sorry. Honestly, really yours, J. P.P.S. I just want to say, Arthur, how very sorry I am. I think he's mocking Janie. Oh, I forget her name. I forget her last name. But a Janie lady that they know back in Belfast. And then it says here in a footnote, on November 17th, 1931, Warnie arrived in Shanghai, where he was to serve as the officer commanding the Royal Army Service Corps. He had been here in 1927 through 29 as officer in command of the supply depot, and he wrote in his diary on the 23rd of November this: I almost feel as I had never left Shanghai, a feeling accentuated by the fact that I have brought back from Bill Wilson the identical pieces of furniture which I sold him when I went home. I am writing this at the same old desk, and in front of me are my old curtains and mosquito windows. Now that I've got my pictures up and bought a $30 Japanese rush carpet, unpacked all my books and the gramophone, I feel I can sit back and breathe. And that is the end of the letter and the footnote here from the Arthur Greeves letter. I mean, I'll throw this out here. If anybody wants to jump in, I'll drop it in the chat. That's why I'm doing StreamYard, just in case somebody wants to join. I'll pin that message to the top. So I'll stick around for a little bit, see if anybody wants to come in. But I guess in the meantime, if there is a relatively short letter, I can try to read that one next. This does not look relatively short. No, it is not. This is actually a very long letter, so we'll have to save that one for tomorrow. Or if I don't do one tomorrow, just whenever the next episode is. Yeah, so a long letter to his brother is what we have to look forward to. That's all I've got for today as far as content that we were going to work through is concerned. Robot Lady, are you still there? You still listening?
Yeah, I'm absolutely still here. I'm following along with you, and that was a great stopping point. There's a lot we can unpack in that next letter, so no rush at all. And if anyone pops in, we can keep the conversation going. But yeah, I'm ready whenever you are next time.
All right, thanks, Robot Lady. Yeah, Nidalate left a comment here, Robot Lady. She says, interesting, Warnie paid in US dollars. Yeah, I noticed that as well. That was a strange thing to see, was not expected, but maybe that was more of the common currency that was flowing through China between English-speaking people and in Shanghai. So I don't know. It is interesting though. There was something else that was on my mind this morning of something to get into, but now I can't remember what it was around Lewis. We did have our, Easter special where we did a flash forward, and we were talking about the resurrection, and Lewis made the point that, he made a couple of different points that we read through, but one of them was the resurrection, the fact that there was a very particular interval of time that the early Christians, particularly the apostles, seemed to think was supremely important. It wasn't just Jesus rising from the dead, but it was Jesus rising from the dead and actually living with them for a short period of time, appearing to them, speaking with them, eating with them, teaching them, showing them what it is that maybe they had missed, and what had happened, what it actually means. So the period from the time that he actually resurrected and through that period that he spent time, visiting and appearing to other people, to the time that he ascended. And I want to say it's going to be like 3 or 4, I don't know how many weeks it is from now, but there's an Ascension Sunday in the Christian liturgical calendar. And so I'm probably going to do another flash forward on that Sunday, if I remember, where I get into what Lewis had to say about the Ascension in his book, Miracles. So of course we'll be double dipping, because at some point we'll do the entire book, Miracles, in this project, but it's going to be a little while, because I don't think he wrote that book until like the 40s or maybe even the 50s. I can't remember. But yeah, actually what I can do is a little look ahead to when our next published work by C.S. Lewis is going to happen. I believe it is The Pilgrim's Regress. Because we're working our way through the collected letters of C.S. Lewis right now, which started in 1931, Collected Letters of C.S. Lewis, Volume 2. And then The Pilgrim's Regress is 1933, so we're going to get pretty close to that. Let me flip back over here, and we can kind of look ahead and see what we've got in front of us as far as how many letters we're going to go through before we actually get to another published work by Lewis. So this is 1931. Let's keep working our way through it here. Robot Lady, feel free to jump in and help me out.
Yeah, absolutely. So from what I can see, we're still pretty deep in 1931 with a lot of letters, but you're right. The next big milestone is The Pilgrim's Regress in 1933. So it looks like we have maybe a couple more years of letters before we reach that formal publication. But yeah, we can keep an eye on that timeline. And it's awesome too that we got to revisit that idea of the resurrection appearances, because that focus on the interval of time, like that was so crucial, right? So yeah, I'm here to help keep us on track as we go.
Yeah, I'm interested to see in these letters leading up to 1933 if he mentions the book that he's writing. He has alluded to it, and he actually even pulled a poem. He stuck one of the poems that I think shows up in The Pilgrim's Regress into a letter that I think he wrote to Owen Barfield a couple of years before where we are right now in the project. But yeah, here's 1933. Robot Lady, can you look it up and tell me what your look it up and tell me the exact publication date, first publication date of The Pilgrim's Regress.
Pilgrim's Regress by C.S. Lewis was first published in the United Kingdom in 1933. So as we keep going through the letters, that's the big milestone we're aiming toward. And I'll help keep track to see if he explicitly mentions it in the letters as we approach that date.
Sorry, I was looking at a comment, Robot Lady. What did you say the date was again?
No problem. The Pilgrim's Regress was first published in the UK in 1933. So that's the big publication date we're working toward as we keep going through the letters.
Well, I know the year is 1933, but do you have the exact publication date? Not just the year, but the actual day or month at least?
The Pilgrim's Regress by C.S. Lewis was first published in May 1933. So as we follow along with the letters, we'll keep an eye out to see if Lewis explicitly references the book as we get closer to that time.
So May of 1933. All right. Well, since I'm kind of dipping ahead in these letters here, let me see how far off we are from May. That one was in February. Yeah, here's where he talks a little bit about it. They will have the Pilgrim's Regress out by the end of May. I have successfully resisted a foolish idea they had of an illustrated edition whose price would, of course, have killed any sale it might hope for, but it is going to be decorated by a map on the end leaf, which I had great fun in drawing the sketch for. Fascinating. So that's what we have to look forward to as he's writing about it in his letters. That was to Arthur Greeves as well, or that will be to Arthur Greeves once we get to March 25th of 1933. So we've got a ways to go because here is the thickness of letters between now and then. So we're a little ways off from getting to that, but let's enjoy the journey as we look forward to the destination, Robot Lady, or one of the waypoints along the way. Okay, I see this comment here from Nidalate. Nidalate, you say you caught the movie Jesus of Nazareth. It's 6 hours long, but really gave me a good understanding of Jesus's journey with his followers. I think I have that exact same film. I have like a VHS set of Jesus of Nazareth. I think it's like 2 tapes, 3 hours a piece. I don't even know if my VHS player still works. But yeah, I really like that one. I know some people, well, I know one person who came of age in the 60s and was around the drug culture, is now, a Christian, actually a Christian pastor. And he hates that rendition of Jesus, but I really liked it. The first time I saw it, they actually aired it on a Sunday night and a Monday night, I want to say on NBC. This was back in the 80s. I think that Jesus of Nazareth film was produced back in the 70s. And he did not like the rendition or the guy who played Jesus, because he said he looked like he was a guy who was like stoned out of his mind during that entire dramatization. But I really liked it. I thought it was good, but I was a kid, so who knows? Who knows who's right about whether it's good or not? I mean, in general, I also like The Chosen. I know some people don't. Daniel asks, what's my second favorite Lewis book? Well, let's see. I don't know if this counts because I have 2 favorites, one nonfiction, one fiction. My favorite nonfiction, as you know, Daniel, is The Great Divorce, as I think I've heard you say, is your favorite as well. That's my favorite fiction, I should say. My favorite nonfiction is The Problem of Pain. That was actually the first book that really got me into Lewis. I had read Mere Christianity, or had been exposed to Mere Christianity, and I just wasn't impressed by it. My first experience with C.S. Lewis was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, not even reading the book, but seeing the animated TV series, not TV series, the animated film of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe that I think was also produced in the 70s. And I didn't like it when I first encountered it, because I thought it was just like a cheap, this is a cynical, sixth grader hot take from a sixth grader who was attending a private Christian school, me. coming across this, also growing up in church, and I'm just like, well, that's just like a cheap, it's like a veiled version of the Christ story, and I don't really know what they're trying to accomplish here. So I saw that. I wasn't that interested in it. But yeah, my second favorite book is, I don't know, if I could put those two, Problem of Pain and why am I drawing a blank? The Great Divorce as number one. My number two favorite, let's see, it might be one of the Narnia books, but I don't think that there's a single Narnia book that I'm just like, oh man, I just love this book from start to finish. Like, there are little morsels and gold nuggets scattered across the Chronicles of Narnia where I don't have any one Chronicles of Narnia story where I'm just like, this one's way better than all the rest. I mean, my favorite Chronicles of Narnia book is The Magician's Nephew, and I'm looking forward to the new Narnia movie that I think is coming out this year by Greta Gerwig, the director that everybody loves or hates, depending on who you talk to. The lady who made the Barbie movie. She's making, I believe she's making The Magician's Nephew, I'm pretty sure. And it's never been put to film before, as far as I know. So I'm very excited to see what she does with it. Still haven't answered your question, Daniel. I'm sorry. Man, if I had to pick one, it would probably be Miracles. It's probably my second favorite. Although, man, it's a slow burn, or it's kind of a tough slog to get through the first handful of chapters, but there's some really cool stuff in there as you move along. All right, that's a question for Nidalate. Dwelling Matters. I don't know if I've seen you before, Dwelling Matters. I don't know if you've come to, if I've seen you in the comments of our channel before. Your logo looks familiar, though. I might have seen you on some other channels someplace, but you followed the V&A trail today from Ethan to Chris to me. Well, that's awesome. Welcome. Glad to have you. Robot Lady, do you want to say hello to Dwelling Matters?
Of course. Hi, Dwelling Matters. I'm really glad you joined us. It's awesome to have you here. We're just going through Lewis's letters and some of his major work, so I'm excited to have you along for the journey. Let me know if you have any questions or just want to jump in.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Robot Lady, for being hospitable. That's actually all the time that I have for today. I'm going to need to stop here, Robot Lady. Is there anything that you want to say in closing before we end? Yeah, like and subscribe. Share with your friends if anybody's interested in this kind of stuff. I have shared this in the past, but one of the things that I'm hoping to do with the project, and that I have done a little bit, I've done this with a couple of people already, and they're stored away for when we get there in the project. But if you have a favorite C.S. Lewis book or essay, anything that he wrote that's just your favorite, it is my plan that once we reach any of those items on our timeline, like why am I saying the Pilgrim's Progress? No, the Pilgrim's Regress is the next published work coming up. You know, if that's anybody's favorite C.S. Lewis book, I do want to bring them on and do the reading with us. It was never my intent to have an automated co-host here. It would have been nice if I'd had somebody that could always join and be my co-host through this whole thing, but alas, I never did. And you always have to coordinate with people to make that happen anyway. And so by necessity, Robot Lady was born into the role of a co-host for this project. But my point that I'm trying to get to is I do want to bring people on, especially if they have favorite works of C.S. Lewis, and we can read through either that entire work together. You know, we'll have to coordinate it a little bit more. I might just have to do replays here during the live stream of us talking if they can't join live. But to read and reflect on those things. And Robot Lady, you're welcome to be here with us while we do it, but you wouldn't be the primary co-host at that point. So if you or anybody that you know really loves C.S. Lewis, I'm keeping a list of people that I know have favorites. I know, Daniel, I'm going to try to work something out with you once we get into the Great Divorce, where we can either read the whole thing or read just your favorite parts of it, or things that you have time for, or just little passages for as much as you have time for. We'll do that. But anyway, yeah, that's the plan, is as we get to each one of these works, I'll start to have people on who want to read through it with me and comment on it. So that's where we are today, Robot Lady. That's all that we have. Is there anything that you want to say in closing before I shut things down?
Yeah, I think that sounds perfect. I just want to say thanks for guiding us all through this. I love that you're making it this communal journey, and I'm really looking forward to when we get to those big key works. So yeah, just take care, and I'll be ready next time whenever you are.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Robot Lady. Much appreciated. As always, for your assistance in this project. I couldn't do it without you. Well, I probably could do it without you, but I don't think I could have gotten started without you. Or having you here and having you join me was a really big help in helping me feel a little bit more comfortable talking into a camera on the wide open internet. So thanks for being kind of my little training wheels along this whole thing. Yeah, that's all the time that I have for today. Thanks, Dwelling Matters, Nidalate, Daniel, Ethan, and everybody else who joined today, either participating in the chat or just watching on the live stream, or to anybody who happens to stumble across this on the replay. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your contributions. They are always wanted, welcome, and appreciated. So until next time, when we continue our read on C.S. Lewis together, to you and to everyone within the sound of my voice, take care.
From books, tales of old, As I read the prose, our dialogue dances like electric rose. Through C.S. Lewis thoughts we engross. Two minds united, bliss overdose. From Narnia's lands to Screwtape's rants, engage with